Assalamu alaikum. Gender equality, women empowerment, and domestic violence. These are some of the issues that we have been talking about, but still we haven't been successful enough to prevent it or to stop it. But as a press, I believe that talking about this would help us to give the attention that is required to stop these actions from happening. I'm Renasa, and this is For the State. Well, tonight, Fourth Estate will be focusing on domestic violence and women empowerment. We will be in conversation with Hope for Women EXCO member Ahmad Anwar and Mariam Juhaina. The first ever research on the prevalence of violence against women in the Maldives, titled The Maldives Study on Women's Health and Life Experiences 2007, revealed that 1 in 3 women aged 15 to 49 experienced some form of either physical, sexual, or both types of abuses during their lifetime. It was against this background that Hope for Women was founded in 2010, following consultations with groups of individuals concerned about increasing reports of child abuse and violence against women. Hope for Women envisions a society where women are free from violence and discrimination, are empowered, and fully engaged in all aspects of public life. Their mission is to eliminate all forms of sexual abuse and sexual violence against girls and women in the Maldives, to protect and promote women's rights as reflected in moderate and liberal interpretations of Islam, to promote measures that would make women self-reliant and empowered through policy dialogue with key stakeholders, and to support the work of like-minded civil society organizations and state institutions that work towards gender equality and equity. Hope for Women raises issues of gender injustice and violence against women with policymakers and work to influence changes in the policies for the benefit of improved women's rights protection. It also conducts civic education programs on gender and violence against women and promotes discussion in the media on causes, consequences, and alternatives to women's rights violation. Given the current situation in the Maldives, where religious justifications or conservative Islamic teachings that use Islam as a tool to intimidate and repress women, and the lack of a broad socio-political approach to promote women's rights and gender equality, Hope for Women is of the opinion that it has become incumbent upon all civil society actors to speak out and stand up against the widespread prejudices that encourage women to be relegated to a marginalized existence and sometimes subjected to extraordinary acts of violence. Welcome to the program. Well, we've just heard about when and how the Hope for Women organization was formed, but I think to begin with, we should know the role of Hope for Women in our society. So can you please tell us about the role of Hope for Women?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Didi for this opportunity that has been given to Hope for Women. And about talking about the role of the Hope for Women in the society, our role is as a civil society organization, especially addressing the issues of women. So in society, we try to address to the issues and the rights of women in several different ways. One of the ways will be advocating for the rights of women, and also doing awareness programs or creating awareness among the women, men, and general public. So as a civil society organization, that's the main role of Hope for Women.
I think in the recent years, Hope for Women has done a lot for the society, especially on the areas that you've just mentioned. So, as a leading organization or NGO of the country, how would you describe the developments or the changes, that has happened through the past years, especially comparing to those years when you just started the work and until so far?
Uh, when we started the work, the situation of women was not good, and very sadly, I have to say that still it's not so good. We have been facing issues of violence, issues of political participation. If it, in a lot of various sectors areas, there are a lot of issues that needs to be addressed, and in general, the situation of women is not very good. We can see that from the recent incidents that has happened. A lot of incidents are happening, and to note that it's very sad to to mention that we have lost lives because we couldn't address the issues. So the situation is very worse, that I would say, and in most of the time what we hear is usually we get the comparison with other countries. So that is an issue we also have. What I would like to say is there is no need for comparing with other countries. As far as rights are concerned, we don't compare with other countries because other countries has different issues, different situations. We have a different situation in our country. So we cannot compare with other countries, saying that we are better or we are we are very good comparing with other countries, because the challenges the women of Maldives faces different from other countries. So first I would like to say that there is no need for a comparison, and if we take the statistics and the situations, we have a clear picture that we have a lot of issues to be addressed. That is for sure.
Well, we have a number of organizations working to protect the women's rights and to create gender equality in the country so far. So, Hope for Women as an NGO, as a leading NGO, what are your main focus areas in the field?
The main focus areas that Hope for Women is concentrating ever since the year started has been domestic violence, and mainly inequalities that women face in their daily lives in this community. And during these years that we have worked against these issues, we have found that there are many reasons, okay, cultural, religious, and a lot of deep rooted ideologies that people have that makes this journey to having equal rights to women very difficult. And people misinterpret, especially when organizations such as Hope for Women say the term equal rights. They always generalize it to mean something that is not what we actually mean in this context. Equality and equality to all genders that we are saying should be same in terms of services and treatments that they receive. But the perhaps certain burdens, especially that we are how do you say, ordained to do, especially in our religion, are perhaps separate and different. That's not what we are saying to eliminate these laws and principles. We are not saying that, but to give us equality in the services and treatments that we receive in daily lives in the community. Yeah, that's what we are fighting for.
Well, Hope for Women has carried out a lot of projects and activities throughout the country.
Yes.
So far, what are your main projects that you have been carrying out and it's still going on in the country?
One of the main projects that we are carrying out, we carried out last year, and is still going to be proceeding this year, is the economic empowerment project of women. In that project, we have two main focus areas. One of them is is the market store project, and the next one is the we are having an outlet, a short teeth outlet, those two projects. So the market project is where we bring in products made by women, maybe in rural areas of the country, and then we sell it in a stall by Hope for Women in the local market. The purpose of this project is to ensure that the woman who is doing this work, doing this tremendous work, is given the maximum monetary profit that she can receive for the product that she has prepared. It could be like, let's say, Tellibamkyo or Tellifang or any agri, how do you say, tomatoes or brinjals or whatever products that she has prepared, that she has grown, that she can give it, bring it to us, and we'll help her to sell it in our market. And a lot of women has registered. We have actually sent to all our island councils this announcement that we would like women of the islands to participate in this. And quite a number of women have participated, but we are still looking for more. So this is one project that we hope and believe will be very successful. The second one, the Hedika outlet, we have formed a group of women who are currently in this field, in the field of making short eats, and we have assembled them and then given them opportunity to open up an outlet that produces short eats of a Maldivian style. Right now we get those food items which are not traditionally Maldivian, it does not have the traditional Maldivian taste. So we would like to enforce those tastes in this outlet, and actually these samples of these women can be sampled to the general public in an upcoming event, in the OBR event actually. And previous projects that we have already finished in 2016, 2013, 2014 include a number of two OBR activities of recent years and the 16 days of activism of previous years, and also we conducted a leadership camp for girls in 2014. And also right now we are currently monitoring, establishing a monitoring mechanism of DV cases, that is domestic violence cases, with FPA. The purpose is to strengthen the monitoring mechanism and the service given mechanism with relation to DV cases. And our FLC clinic has been in function and will be in function this year too.
Well, you've just mentioned about an outlet, so is it that the opportunity, is the application opportunity still open for the public to participate in it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
Well, comparing to the previous years, you've said about the general trend, it has still been the same. But how would you describe the trend? I would like to stress more on how the situation of women in our country is. How would you describe it?
Talking about the trends of the situation of women, we have seen declining trends. For example, if we look into the political sector, we do agree that is lot more will agree that women are participating in politics at a grassroots level. For example, organizing events, rallies, or ceremonies, and anything in campaign rallies or campaigns, everything, women are participating a very very extent, very much they are participating in politics. But when we talk about the decision making people in politics, that we don't see many women. We have been seeing a decline trend in the People's Majlis, the parliament. In the recent years or in the past, we have been seeing a declining numbers. For example, now we have 5 parliament members, out of which 85 total 85 members, out of which we have only 5 women. In the previous time, it was total 77. Still, we had 5. So there is no increase in women's number in the parliament, which shows a decline in the number. And to talk about parliament, previously we had more than 5 members in the parliament, and the percentage wise we had a little bit more. So that there is one area we have been seeing a decline in the politics. In the politics, I mean in the decision making level. And on the other hand, we are seeing increasing in number of cases of violence. That is not very clearly, I cannot say clearly whether it is the violence that is increasing or the number of cases reporting is increasing. We can see increasing the number of cases reported. Mainly there are 2 reasons that could have happened. Either the violence is more or the people coming forward with the issues is more. So with a lot of efforts of awareness raising, it can be an indicator of people getting more aware. Also, it can be an indicator of people getting more violent. That is something we have to clearly get a research or have to do a study on, to see to extent what is the actual issue around it. We can see, but in that area also we have seen a decline. As we can see, we are now seeing people losing lives due to violence. That is something very sad, and I can say clearly, yes, we are seeing a decline in that sector as well. So in general, more than one ways, we are seeing a decline in the rights and issues faced with women in Maldives.
Well, talking about the recent death of Ziada, which is a very controversial issue, it has risen the fear of domestic violence in our country once again. But very often, as I see it, the importance that should be given to these issues is given only when something really terrible happens. But I think we have a number of NGOs working for the women's right to stop domestic violence. We have independent bodies and government authorities as well. So as a member of an NGO, how would you describe this? Does this mean, does losing the lives of people or these cases, does that mean all these NGOs and everybody, they're failing to do their duty?
Definitely, as a single answer, yes, I can agree to it. As an advocate, I can agree that I have failed in that area. That is for sure. Otherwise, these terrible events can be avoided. So, as an advocate, yes, I have to admit that I have failed, sure. But that doesn't differ. I mean, that doesn't make a difference. We have lost the life. That cannot. It's a terrible incident. And talking about institutions and NGOs and authorities, yes, we have authorities. We have mechanisms to be in place. We have a law that needs to be implemented fully. So issues are there, a lot of issues are there. If we are still not able to address the issues, if we were able to address the issues, this wouldn't have happened. We have failed as advocates, we have failed as citizens, what I mean as neighbors, and as individuals, we have failed. That is for sure. And as a member of the organization, we have been trying a lot. That has to be said. But I could agree that it have never been enough. We have to do more. And the other thing is we have a law that needs to be implemented fully. The law says mechanisms has to be established. there are ways that these issues can be addressed. And I would admit that it's not the law that is, whether we have a law or not is the issue, but it's the issue of the mindsets. We need to accept that violence is happening and it's terrible, and it needs to be addressed at the grassroots or local level and at the decision making levels. So there are authorities, there are institutions, there are organizations. Also, as you mentioned, there are civil society organizations. We have to do a lot more. That has to be said.
Well, Ms. Jaina, talking about the political empowerment, you say it's very important, but how important is to have women in the political grounds? Because some people, they say that women are not capable enough to be in the decision-making levels or at these high levels, and we're better off at homes looking after kids or household works. How would you respond to this?
Well, I could also say that men are most appropriate to spend their days maybe doing hard work, like fishing, but not everybody is doing that. There are some people at desks, some people at policy making levels, and we have a culture that had enforced the idea that such as that you have said, but it has not come actually from any of the beliefs that we are currently practicing. That is a culture that has been going on for whatever reason. Okay, I think because we have been living in a patriarchal society. I think that's the main reason. Because this country is following on two main beliefs, right? Our religion and our culture. So what is happening now, such as the issue you have mentioned, is because of the culture, not because of the religion that we practice. It could be seen very clearly in previous eras that powerful political women and decision-making level have been practicing and in command over a large number of the population, men and women, and these examples of these women need to be publicly told by Sharia practicing scholars, and especially female scholars of this nation need to address these issues that that make women think that they are not supposed to come out and address a general public or direct ways that a general that the public should behave, that they're not supposed to do it. Women scholars should come out and eliminate these beliefs, and because of that only, I think women are not coming onto the political platform as they should be. And women should come because women are more than actually 50% of the population. A lot of men believe that women are more in the population when it comes to the issue of multiple marriages. And they do not, I don't know, maybe they forgot about it when it comes to stating that the community is based on women and men, and there are more women in the community than men. So so obviously there needs to be raised issues that concern women needs to be raised at the policy making level. And who better than women to address these issues? We have an example, actually, a small example I'll give you. When we were passing the GST tax laws, a product that women use very regularly, okay, was subject to tax because there were no women to raise that issue. I'm talking about sanitary products. When that bill was passed, nobody thought about that. But if a woman was there, or if women raised these concerns, it would have been exempted probably. Because other products such as adult diapers or baby nappy products, they have also been exempted because it's a daily product, right? So very common product that women use. So stuff like that. And also during the some crisis times, like for example tsunami crisis times, the toilet facilities provided for women and men were like in same in numbers, right? But the man, he used this bathroom facility for his own personal use. The woman, she uses it to ensure the hygiene of her kids and herself, and the daily chores of the family. So she would obviously need more time there. So number of those facilities for women should have been more. But this issue was not a concern at the time because there were no or less or women who were there did not raise their concerns. So these are some of the issues, okay? The reasons that women need to be in policy making levels.
I would like to add a few more comments on that. It's very true. Also, the reasons that women needs to be in decision making is many. For example, to achieve sustainable development or to achieve any development, the participation of women is crucial, I would say, because in past experiences that I had during my visits to the atolls during projects, what we have seen is the decisions was made with workshops or seminars that has the attendance of over 80% men. So the concerns of men were different from women in the islands or in general, in overall, in everywhere in the country, because we have a culture that practices different areas. For example, in living, women experiences different than men in the country. So that needs to be addressed. For example, the more social cultural issues are addressed by women rather than men. What we see in workshops or seminars that make decisions are mostly attended by individuals who are from authorities, who goes regularly for the job to the office and come back home, and maybe that was the only obligation that they had. But in the islands, women have obligations or have taken the obligations of feeding the children, the education, the health services, and overall the community issues, the social issues are more dealt with the women. So that component was missing in the decision making. So we didn't have a diverse decision that was when we came up with the issues of the islands. So what I have seen is on those meetings, the decisions made were more on infrastructure. More on infrastructure. The social development and the social issues faced in the community was not addressed. The youth issues was not addressed mainly. These are issues that need to be addressed if you want to achieve development. So these are the reasons we are saying that women needs to be in decision making level, so that the experience that they have in the community are reflected in the decisions. Not only the experience of men who goes to the office, who deals with the authorities, they are different experience. That also is needed in the decision making, but the other part is missing. So that is why we say the decision making level women is very critical.
Well, we still have more to come, especially about the OBR events, which is going to be organized by the Hope for Women. Please stay tuned while we take a short break.
Neutro Special Crackers eta bike itibar hoda pave. Varam mir. නිියුට්‍රෝ ස්පෙෂල් ක්‍රෙකසකි පෙකටුගාගින් අදක පිස්කෝදෙකුලවේ අගේ මීරු පිස්කෝදේ
වරක් කමදා විස්කොල
බින්දා කාලා නිියුට්‍රෝ ස්පෙෂල් ක්‍රේකස්
ಈವೋಂಗ್ ಅಣಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟಾರಫ್ ಕುರಣಿ ಜರ್ಮನ್ ವಿಲಾತ್ಗೆ ಮಳು ಉಫೆದ್ದುಮೆಕ್ಕಮವ್ವ ಪೆರಡೋ ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಗೆ ಎಕಿವತ್ತರುಗೆ ಸಾಳಿ ಲೆಮಿನೆಟ್ ಪಾಕೆ ಕಾಪೆಟ್ ಅದಿ ಫೆನುಗೆ ಅಸರು ಕುರಾತಂತನ ಹಾಸ ವೈನಿಲ್ ಫ್ಲೋರಿಂಗ್ ವೆಸ್ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಮುಳಿಂಗ್ ಆ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಲೇಷನ್ ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ ಆಯಕು ಮಿಹಾರ್ ಈವೋ ಫ್ಲೋರಿಂಗ್ ಲಿಬೆಂಗ್ ಹುಣ್ಣಾಣ್ ತಿರೀಸ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಫಿಯಾನ್ ಫೆಶಿಗೆ ಅಕ ಫೂಟೆಡ್ ಸೈಟ್ ಮೆಷರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನಗ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಲ್ ಕೊದ್ದಿನವುಗೆ ಹಿದುಮೆ ವೆಸ್ ಮೀ ಮಿಹಾ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಲಿಬೆಂಗ್ ಹುರಿ ಎಮ್ಮೆ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಅಗುಹೆಯೋ ಫ್ಲೋರಿಂಗ್ ಅಳೆ ಸಾಳಿಯನ್ನು ಅಂತ
Snickers. It's got nuts, chocolate, and caramel to fill that hunger on the go. Grab it, rip it, chew it, yeah. Hungry? Grab a Snickers.
Now grab a fantastic new pack of 5s for just ₹50.
हिग्गाम दो है दो कॉफी है बोला साली गाड़ियन के बोलनी
दो
फिनी कॉफी है ना वाला सांगल दिस ना बने चाहिए ना
आइस कॉफी है नो
ಅವಸ್ಕಮಕ್ ಫಿನಿಕೊದ್ದೆ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಕರದು ಕೂಡ ನಿಕಾಯಿ ಬ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಏಸಿಗೆ ಫಿನಿಕಮ ಮೊಳಕ ತಜ್ರಿಬಾ ಕೊಲ್ಲಮ ಎಹಾ ಫಿನಿ ಎಹಾ
ಹುನ್ ಕೊ ಫಿನ್ ದಿಬ್ಲಾತ
Welcome back to Fourth Estate. Tonight we're in conversation with the EXCO member of Hope for Women, Ahmed Anwar, and the secretary of Hope for Women, Mariam Johanna. Welcome back to the show. Well, talking about domestic violence, I think to prevent domestic violence, first of all, victims need to know and accept whether they are being victims of domestic violence. What are the actions that can be considered as violence?
According to the Domestic Violence Act, in general, I can say that anything that prohibits a healthy living or the affects the status of living can be considered as domestic violence in general. That includes specific actions, for example, mentioned in the act as well. We have sexual violence or physical violence or emotional violence. All forms are included in the Domestic Violence Act. So it varies from sexual, physical or emotional violence. These are types that are included in the Domestic Violence Act, and the list goes on. We have around 17 identified actions that can be considered as a violence. That includes in general, I can say that anything that affects a healthy living or a proper way of living can be considered as violence. Whether it's beating or whether it's shouting or whether doing whether it can be also monetary, for example financially also. Whether not giving appropriate financial support can be considered as violence. And to address these issues, as you mentioned, victims or the survivors has to know or has to accept that violence cannot be tolerated. Violence is not an answer. Also, I would like to give more focus on the neighbors or the friends or the people who are around the survivor, because they are the people who can support the survivor the most. when the violence comes to the authorities, it might have been a little bit late, and at times actions cannot be properly taken if it is too late. So I would put more focus on the friends and the neighbors and the people who live around the survivor to give us support. Definitely we will know if somebody goes through pain or anything. That is something we know as a neighbors. So that has to be given a very huge focus.
So I think as an NGO or as a body who's working for the betterment of the society, there will be some difficulties or challenges that are being faced. As an NGO to advocate on the domestic violence and the women's right as a whole, what are the difficulties or the challenges that you face in providing your services to the public?
One main challenge would be the mindsets of the general public. What I want to focus is on the issues related to women. Still we believe that women have certain qualities, or women, if you are a woman, you need to have certain qualities. If you are a man, you are pre-qualified. That is the basic mentality we have in the country, maybe in the other countries as well. So there is one issue that we are trying to address, but in addressing these issues, as a civil society organization, we face a lot of challenge as a civil society organization, because this sector is not very developed in the country. There are a lot more that has to be done to improve the sustainable development of a civil society that advocates for the rights and it has established NGOs. For example, we are also not a very experienced NGO as an organization, although we do have a lot of members, or we have people who are experienced with us, but the organization is still a very young organization. So there are issues. For example, it's not very easy for us to have a permanent office. That is something very important. That is a challenge we have. And also to operate financially, it's a bit difficult. We operate on a project basis, so we can have a staff if we have a project, but if we don't have a project, we don't have a staff. So those are difficulties that we face as civil society organizations in Maldives. I think a lot of other NGOs are also facing these difficulties.
Well, I've mentioned before that we have a number of NGOs who are also working in the same motive. How would you describe the relationships with other NGOs, and do you think there is a competition between these NGOs working for the same motive?
I would say that there is no competition, because there is a lot more that needs to be done in this sector. So we have organizations that focus on other areas in women's rights sector. So we work in hand. We work together to achieve the same goal. So it's like having somebody else to support is an support or is an advantage we have. So we don't have a competition as such. We need more organizations to focus on these issues, because if we have another organization supporting us, it's an advantage we have.
All right. So as Maldives is dispersed, and we have around 20 atolls and 1,190 islands, I should say. How much attention is given for the people in the atolls by your NGO?
Well, I have to mention that projects are mainly, for example, awareness projects are mainly focused on the atolls. That I have to mention that we have a current project ongoing on political empowerment of women. So we have focused on 12 areas of Maldives. That includes the capital as well. So more focus are given on those projects to the atolls. But I do have to agree that as organizations, it might not be accessible to the atolls as much as accessible in Male. That has to be accepted. That's the difficulty we all have, all the organizations have. As you mentioned, it's geographically very difficult. It's one of the challenge we have been facing. But we do give a focus on the atolls, especially on the projects. we have given very much focus on the atolls. But I have to mention that something like having OBR and 16 days of activism. In those activities, we are still not able to give a lot of focus to the atolls. For the reasons as you have mentioned, it's a bit difficult, but we are still thinking of having it access with organized with organizations that in the atolls. What we try to do is we get along with other organizations that are represented in the atolls. For example, the last year OBR we did activities that are in some atolls where the organizations we were able to get in touch with some organizations in the atolls. They were willing, and we participated together in the OBR. But I have to mention that not in every island or not in every atoll we have such organizations to contact in the islands as well. So that's a difficulty we have. So as I mentioned previously, it would be an advantage, especially if we have organizations in the atolls to work together. So.
Well, something very interesting about Hope for Women organization is your Family Legal Clinic. Can you please tell us more about the Family Legal Clinic and how it functions?
The Family Legal Clinic component of Hope for Women is mainly to provide legal advice and counsel to those who seek our help in these matters. And usually we have clients who have experienced and or know someone who are experiencing domestic violence or other issues that make it difficult for them to lead regular lives, as Anwar mentioned before. So those people, those women, mostly women, right? A few men, but mostly women who seek our counsel. We advise them on how to proceed with the matter. And other than that, we are also collecting an in-house database of the cases that have been reported and what have been done about these cases, sort of like a follow-up, right? And also with the American Embassy, we producing, strengthening and awareness. We are having a strengthening awareness mechanism for DV cases, and to ensure one of the main focuses is to ensure that there's a proper reporting mechanism to the victims of these cases. And the Family Legal Clinic is operating every week, Wednesday, actually 8 to 10, and we would like as many people to seek our counsel. Because there are a variety of cases that a lot of people have no idea what to do, and we could actually provide a way for them. Anyone can register and then come at the opening time, which is on Wednesday 8 to 10. To register, anybody can call 7456-570, this number, and the process is very easy actually.
Well, I think one very important question about this domestic violence and this whole issue is what are the support system mechanisms in the country right now for these victims who would want to get rid of it, who wants to actually survive from these violence? Do we have shelters for them?
Actually, we do have established shelters. As Gender Ministry has announced, 5 shelters that have been established in the country as safe homes. So as you have asked about the helps or the mechanisms for survivors of domestic violence, the first thing is it needs to be reported to the authorities. the main authority to report would be the Maldives police services, as they would be attending to the scene, and they are the primary investigators of these cases. And also there are responsibilities of other authorities as well, or other service providers as well. For example, if a social service provider has recognized or has known a survivor of domestic violence, or someone who is going through domestic violence, has an obligation, a legal obligation mentioned in the law, a duty to report it to the concerning authorities and to help that person. As well as the same goes for the health service providers. If any health service provider has known or recognized or has seen any survivor of domestic violence, or somebody who is going through domestic violence, has an obligation to report it to the concerning authorities and to help and to put the person into the mechanism. That obligation is there. As well as there is a family protection authority who governs the act, who has a main responsibility of the domestic violence act. Also we have gender ministry who has who has the mandate to address the issues of women and women's rights in the Maldives. These mechanisms are there, so there are ways that can be addressed. Not only the mentioned authorities or institutions or service providers has the duty. I would say it's a personal duty for everyone to take into account that it won't be easy for the survivor to say anything. We have seen the culture of blaming the victim. That has to be stopped. That has to be stopped. What I want to say is you don't know what somebody is going through, so it's very difficult for someone to even talk about it. So without blaming the victim, we need to come for ways as others to simply help the person.
Well, moving on to 1 Billion Rising, what's the main aim of marking this occasion?
1 Billion Rising is an international event that is marked worldwide. I would say it's a symbolic event. Yes, it's based on preventing the violence that is occurring to women. So 1 Billion Rising is to advocate the ending violence against women. So that is the main aim of the OBR event, 1 Billion Rising.
We've seen colorful events in commemoration of 1 Billion Rising in the recent years. What are the activities planned for this year's OBR?
One main activity would be the evening. We will be having hopefully on the 12th. On the 12th we will be having the evening that consists of information giving stalls, and as Johanna has mentioned, we would have a stall for the short eats that the project we have. The women who are in the project will be serving in the stall. So that is one thing we are including in our event. The evening is one event. The other event is we have an open letter that we are preparing an open letter for the decision makers, especially for the parliament. Also we have an open forum where survivors can talk about what they have gone through, or somebody who have seen a person going through can also share the information. One of the ways to get justice or to address the issues is to help people come out with their stories, or to help people to tell what they have experienced, which is something very difficult. So these are some activities.
And also I'd like to add, in this evening we also having an area especially for children activities, and the information stalls that we are having includes all of the stakeholders that are assisting us in this OBR function. And also we are working on Friday sermon for the first Friday after this, on the 12th actually, that is. 12th is a Friday. So that sermon. And the open letter that we are sending is to the Parliament members is in the hopes that when they are drafting bills, they would put the concerns of the women into more focus and more detail, and that is our hope.
Well, how can the public participate in the events that you mentioned just now?
Yeah, public can participate in almost in all the activities. The event in the 12th, the evening, that is open for the whole public. So the public can go to the event, get information, and it's an event mainly for the awareness raising on these issues. That is one way. The other way is participating in the public forum, the open forum. Anyone can share the experiences. Anybody can participate in that activity, that event.
And it's very important to share your story actually, because like you mentioned in one of your questions before, like what exactly is violence, right? Like when you share your story, the other person would know, hey, I'm also going through this same thing, or someone I know is going through the same thing or similar thing. So this is considered violence, while previously the same person didn't consider this as a form of abuse or violence. So that is why it's extremely important. And then by sharing these stories and not keeping these things in secrecy, we can actually formulate plans to how to reduce these things and how to give empowerment to the women to say, no, you cannot do this to me. To give that strength to the women, we need them to tell what is happening in their lives.
Okay, before concluding, what would be your message to the public as strong advocates of domestic violence?
On the matter of domestic violence, I would like to say one thing. The thing is, violence is never to be accepted, and violence is never to be, never ever accepted. And on the other hand, perpetrators also need to accept that this is not something that can be done. So simply, the perpetrators also need to accept that this is not what is right to do. And I would like to mention that on the DV Act, that issue also has been addressed in the law. We have mechanisms. So in law, it mentions that perpetrators also can go through courses or information sessions or programs to get rehabilitated. So that opportunity is there. So if I would say, not if, you must stop the violence, and if you want to go to the program, go to the program and get rehabilitated. That's the message I would like to give.
That's a very good message actually. These things usually happen because of failing to manage your anger or egoistic issues. So these both can be controlled through education at these centers, and a lot of women and men and women who face violence, usually it continues in a circle. Like it happens to you, and then you do it to your child, and your child does it to their child. It's a continuous circle. It needs to break somewhere. It can only break when you can let go of that anger and the feeling that you need to oppress someone. That needs to be eliminated. It can only be eliminated through self-awareness and the good principles that is practiced and encouraged in our religion.
Well, thank you, Mr. Anwar and Mr. Hina, for your valuable time in our show. Thank you. Well, that concludes tonight's Fourth Estate. I'm Nasir, signing off. Hoping to return next week with yet another interesting issue. Thank you. Good night.